Welcome to Second Take, the show that focuses on the issues behind the news. Gold Junior Gold 1 has its eye on the Toronto Stock Exchange. This after clinching the first ever dual primary Johannesburg and Sydney Stock Exchange listings this week. With intentions like these, it would seem that South Africa isn't the right place to develop a junior mining company. With me in the studio today is Mining Weekly editor Martin Creamer, who will unpack the issue for us. Welcome, Martin.
Morning, Shannon.
Can you give us some background information on the story so far?
Yeah, I was at the stock exchange this week when they had this first ever dual primary listing taking place in Sydney and Johannesburg. And, I was probably the only one excited about it. There was no applause generally, because this is a contrived issue where the stock exchange in Johannesburg forces a primary listing in Johannesburg if more than half of the shares are traded here. So already they're talking about an unraveling of this, and that Sydney will become a bigger source of share activity than in Johannesburg. And it all relates back to the fact that, this is really not a great place for a junior miner to list. And that is rather distressing, because there's so many opportunities in Africa that we're missing. We know that the Chinese are moving in there now during this depressed period. We could be partnering them. A lot of smaller companies could be partnering them. But South Africans are just fast asleep when it comes to retail investment, particularly in mining. Whereas in Australia and in Canada, there's a risk appetite that we lack here, and it's damaging us.
So if the JSE is not the right place for junior miners to list, where should they be listing?
Well, they vote with their feet. And as you can see, they moved to Australia, where, Athletes was well established on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, but sought to go to Australia to do a reverse listing there. A very small percentage of its shares trading there at the moment, but the share price uplift is already dramatically more evident in Australia than it is in South Africa, because of demand from the people of Australia. And already they're thinking now Gold One must also go onto Toronto Stock Exchange, because you've got a similar risk appetite there, which we don't have in South Africa. And as I say, it is losing us a lot of opportunity.
But former Finance Minister Trevor Manuel introduced the July 1 tax incentive for this exact reason.
Yeah,
What's
he did
going
that.
wrong?
Well, again, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Trevor Manuel spends a lot of time with the Department of Minerals and Energy looking at what happens in Canada, their flow-through scheme, and how the costs flow through from exploration, onto balance sheets, and then you get the tax benefit from it. But decides, no, this isn't the way to go, and that we must recreate the wheel, as it were, with a whole new scheme. Now, those that have looked at it don't have an appetite for it. You have to actually create new venture capital companies. I don't know of one that has been created, and now we're coming towards July 1. So, a lot of effort went into it. A lot of people presented to the South African Treasury, and I don't think they should mess around with these things and waste our time. You've got to have something that works, and let's not say, oh, ours is better than the Canadians, when nobody seems to be taking it up.
So what can South Africans then learn from Australians and Canadians in terms of developing junior miners?
Well, Canadians have made a special intervention. The government has intervened directly and has created the flow-through share scheme. And this has created a culture second to none for investment in mining activities. You can see the number of companies that are listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange. You see the number of South Africans that want to list there when they have got some sort of mining asset that they want to turn to account. So Australia has a different situation. I mean, they say that if there are two ants running up the wall, you get 100 Australians betting to say which one will hit the top first. I mean, they just seem to naturally be inclined to look at risk, to love risk, and to get the rewards, because people don't only risk their money, they also get these rewards. And when you see what's happening in Africa at the moment, while we're sitting here and saying, oh, the super cycle has crashed, the Chinese are clapping their hands with glee and saying, gee, this depressed period, we'll fly into Africa, we'll buy up everything at bargain basement prices. I mean, there was an armada, and that's a Spanish term, but armada of Chinese in the Democratic Republic of Congo this week. And they've got a similar deputation to Mozambique. What are they looking for? They know that DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, is the prettiest girl on the mining block. And they're there snapping up opportunities. And when they come in, brother, they come in big. And to be able to work with them, you need to have that mining expertise, which they don't have. We have it. We have it here in South Africa. But instead of us partnering with these Chinese and going in and turning Africa to account and making a new continent of it, we are somnambulant, still walking in our sleep. And along come the Australians and the Canadians through direct government intervention with a strong appetite for investment. And the Australians, I don't know, they just seem to be naturally keen on these sort of things. And they are actually leading the field when it comes to junior mining, investment in junior mining. And South Africa is falling badly behind because we're so used to institutional investments. We've got no retail investor base, and it's quite worrying because how do you create this? I really don't know, but we have to do it.
Definitely you should look to our foreign brothers then. Thank you so much for your time, Martin.
Great, Shannon. Thanks a lot.
That's the show for today. Join us again next time as we take an in-depth look at the mining world's premier projects, industries and business personalities.